A girl approached with a face as stoic as a rock and greeted him. "Hey, Jin-young." On this side, he spoke up and replied, "Yeah, hey." This was my unwavering and unshakable belief. Jin-young started reminiscing about the past. Back in elementary school, I was rejected 20 times. That little girl cried out in fear, "I don't like you." That scene repeated itself many times, like at the park where a girl wailed at the top of her lungs. "Park Jin-young, just confess to me." I was always rejected in various ways. Hearing that, Jin-young couldn't hold back his tears. Even as a young child, I was deeply hurt. After that, his entire worldview shifted. I completely lost faith in myself and started seeking advice from my imaginary friend, accompanied by the appearance of a new friend. This is my imaginary friend. His name is Jason. A piece of advice was given. Try treating all girls like rocks. That was the advice Jason gave me. Jin-young applied that advice as sincerely as possible. From then on, I started practicing mind control. Girls are rocks, girls are rocks. And after repeating this for years, things finally started looking up for him. By my first year of middle school, I began seeing every girl as a literal rock. From behind came the voice of a female friend. "That's right, Jin-young." Jin-young thought silently. Let's get back to the present. And Jason's second piece of advice was this. The girl with the face like a rock cheerfully made a suggestion. "Are you free after school today? I need you to help me study a bit." The core of that advice was, don't get delusional. Jin-young calculated calmly. Just because a girl smiles at you or pampers you like that, don't trick yourself into thinking she likes you. Finally, he coldly turned to leave. "Sorry, I'm a bit busy today. If you don't want to get hurt, that's obviously what you have to do." Jin-young's train of thought continued. "Since I started seeing girls as rocks, I found it much easier to talk to them." He explained it very naturally. It made sense because you don't need to have feelings for a rock. Jin-young glanced to his side. "Right, Jason?" Jason agreed. 100% facts. Then came a comment of his own. "But I'm a little worried that at this rate, you'll never date anyone." Jin-young tilted his head in confusion and explained again. "What are you talking about? I decided to give up on that a long time ago. Did you forget?" This prompted Jason to make another remark. "You're serious, aren't you?" Hearing this, he just slowly continued. "I'd rather live like this than be called a loser or a freak. The truth is, it's been almost 5 years since I started seeing girls as rocks, so I don't even think about dating anymore." Jason didn't push any further, as long as he was okay with it. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind. "Hey!" It was a hand reaching out toward him, holding something. Sian-woo stroked her hair and explained, "I think you dropped this." She tilted her head and asked, "This is yours, right?" Jin-young froze for a moment before turning his eyes to the person in front of him with a question. "Huh? What's this?" His gaze was fixed on Sian-woo. "Why doesn't she look like a rock?" Jin-young fell into a panic in the blink of an eye. "It's been so long since I've looked a girl straight in the eye." He kept reminding himself, "What should I do?" "First, calm down. I have to stay calm." Sian-woo, standing opposite him, was a bit confused. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Inside, Jin-young was thinking to himself. But an assumption followed. It's probably because it's been so long since I've met a real girl. To his surprise, the next words he spoke were completely unexpected. "You're so pretty." Jin-young himself couldn't believe his own ears. On this side, Sian-woo let out a confused huh. She politely replied with 2 words, "Thank you." However, Jin-young turned his head and hurriedly ran away. "Thanks for picking that up, and also I'm sorry." Sian-woo watched him leave in confusion, mumbling to herself, "What a weirdo." On the other side, Jin-young cursed himself as he ran. "Damn it, Jin-young, you idiot." His thoughts were a total mess. Did you seriously just tell her she's pretty? To a girl you just met for the first time? Jin-young's eyes widened. This is extremely bad. What if people start spreading rumors about this? He made it home very quickly. Jin-young tilted his head and muttered a comment. "Actually, I thought she was really gentle and cute." Hearing this, he immediately tried to deny it. "There's no way." His friend continued to encourage him. "Don't be so down, buddy." Jin-young muttered with a sad look. "This is so strange. Why is she the only one who doesn't look like a rock?" Even Jason shook his head in defeat. There was no way to know for sure. "So what do you plan to do now?" He even kindly offered a reminder. "If you just leave it like this, some weird rumors might start spreading." Dark memories involuntarily surfaced in Jin-young's mind. "You like me? Oh my God, that's gross. Will something like this happen again?" At this point, Jason wondered again. "You've trained so hard. What if something like that happens again?" The more they talked, the more insecure Jin-young became. "I'm totally screwed." Seeing how pathetic he looked, Jason immediately threw a punch, followed by a word of comfort. Don't worry, just come up with a plan. He began to present his thoughts. Even if you don't know why she doesn't look like a rock, you just need to make sure you don't run into her, right? Every word he said was perfectly logical. You guys are in different classes, so if you avoid her carefully, you definitely won't see her. Hearing this, Jin Young had to agree. True, right? Jason's right. Time passed until the next day. Inside, Jin Young kept telling himself, as long as I avoid her, I won't get nervous again. However, Sian-woo bumped into him right in the school hallway. What's this? We meet again. Remember me? Jin Young froze. He had run into her again. He kept asking himself, what do I do now? Jason also kindly offers strategy. Calm down, just talk naturally. The girl walking next to Sian-woo finally spoke up. Who is this guy? She hesitated, wanting to explain. Oh, well. Meanwhile, Jin Young kept reminding himself to just act like he would with any other rock girl. She made a comment. He's the one who told me I was pretty yesterday. Hearing this, the person next to her looked visibly excited. Oh my god, no way, that's crazy. I was pretty surprised myself. Sian-woo's attention shifted back to Jin Young. A bright smile was on her face. Am I pretty today too? This attitude forced the person with her to give a reminder. Sian-woo, are you crazy? What are you doing? However, Sian-woo didn't seem to care much. What's the big deal? Jin Young snapped and just ran away. Gotta go. When he finally stopped, he heard a comment from Jason. Smart move. Yeah, if I stayed any longer, I would have just gotten into more trouble. Jin Young kept telling himself as he ran. Don't stop. That laughter is definitely to mock me. Don't get any ideas. He was certain of it deep down. However, things didn't go the way he wanted. What the heck? Jin Young ran into Sian-woo again despite not wanting to. Anyway, from now on, I won't see her again. His thoughts became even more chaotic, except for the fact that Jin Young saw Sian-woo all the time. She stood out way too much among all the other rock girls. She turned her head and gave a greeting. Hey there. At this point, he just had to give in. He couldn't avoid her forever. Then he thought of another way to dodge the situation. Then the only way is to avoid her every time they cross paths. Jin Young was determined to brush past Sian-woo. He didn't even respond to her when they were out on the street. Wow, Sian-woo was so annoyed that she was left dazed. As evening approached, Jin Young's mumbling could be heard. At least I escaped today. At this moment, he was walking alone on the street. But hiding from her like this is really exhausting. Jason encouraged him from the side. You did great, Jin Young muttered as he walked. I need to go home and come up with another plan. His face looked extremely troubled. Seriously, how did things turn out like this? Just then, Sian-woo suddenly blocked his path. Jin Young flinched and hurriedly backed away. You scared the life out of me. This reaction surprised her a bit. I scared you. Jin Young flinched and hurriedly backed away. You scared the life out of me. This reaction surprised her a bit. I scared you. Sian-woo quickly followed up. Are you planning on running away again? She started listing the things that had happened. Geez, I keep calling you and you just ignore me. The more she spoke, the more annoyed Sian-woo's face became. When our eyes meet, you look away. And every time you see me, you bolt. Did I do something wrong to you? Finally, she concluded with a remark. You're being really weird. Jin Young's eyes widened as he told himself. Great. Now she's misunderstood me. Listen, he finally started to respond. The thing is, the reason I've been acting like that is, inside, Jin Young involuntarily remembered the past. Because what followed was a confession. Because every other girl looks like a rock to me. Except for you. Sun-woo's face went blank when she heard those words. And Jin Young was so shocked he froze, his mind constantly questioning itself. Wait, Jason, what the hell did I just say? Sian-woo looked down, her gaze landing on Jin Young's hand, before looking up at his sweat-drenched face. She pursed her lips, calculating cautiously, then broke into a huge smile. Sian-woo spoke as she stepped closer. What's your name? The other guy stammered back. Park Jin Young. Sian-woo leaned in close, reached her hand toward him, and continued. She leaned into Jin Young's ear and whispered, what you just did is called flirting. This comment left him with a blank expression. Deep down, Jin Young was remembering the past. When I was little, my imaginary friend Jason gave me some advice. He watched Sian-woo's retreating back and thought, first, treat every girl like a rock. Remember to say a proper hello next time. Then he placed his hand on his chest and squeezed tight. Second, don't start fantasizing about a happy ending. Jin Young gasped for air as he concluded. That advice didn't work either. A romantic movie scene unfolded before him. Please marry me. You're a good person, dear. I should be the one to go first. To his surprise, at this moment, Jason got annoyed and punched Jin Young straight in the face. What a disaster. The sound of him scolding rang in his ears. It's been 5 years since you last looked at a girl's face up close, so it's normal to be a little overwhelmed. Jin Young asked back without hesitation. But the plan to keep avoiding her doesn't work anymore. What do I do now? Jason's hand pointed at his face as he declared. Remembering the ultimate goal is always the key in situations like this. This serious attitude confused Jin Young. The goal, she affirmed once again. That's right. Jason continued to present his thoughts. Since you started viewing girls as rocks, you didn't have any feelings when meeting them, which is why you were able to stay calm. Memories of the past were brought back. You like me? Goals. Jason continued to present his thoughts. You also didn't have to suffer from being rejected anymore. He summarized everything that had happened. But then a girl who didn't look like a rock appeared, and that's when the side effects of your rock blindness strategy kicked in. Jason kept an extremely serious expression and concluded, You're completely unaccustomed to the face of a real girl. It's the perfect storm for your loser nature to be exposed. Hearing this, Jin Young had to speak up. Hey, calling me a loser is a bit much. Still, he had to admit it. But you're right. If this keeps up, history will repeat itself. At that moment, Jason suddenly made a suggestion. There is a way. His expression grew more serious as he continued. You need to stay calm in front of her, right? A new day arrived. In the hallway earlier, Jin Young had an extremely grumpy face because standing opposite him was Sian Woo. Su Kaiyong excitedly made a comment. Oh my god, look, Jin Young is looking at you. That's so surprising. Hearing this, Sian Woo asked back. Huh, isn't he just glaring? On this side, Jin Young was also talking to his friend. Hey Jason, what was this plan called again? Jason explained calmly. The desensitization strategy. But what's with you? What's wrong with your face? He replied lazily. I just can't see very well. Then he asked suspiciously. So the plan is to just keep looking at her until I get used to it? Jason agreed with that. Correct, but make a proper expression. At least try to smile or something. Receiving affirmation from his friend, Jin Young put on an ugly smile. Someone was also frightened by that smile. Su Kaiyong commented with delight, completely unaware of the creepiness Jin Young was radiating. Oh my god, Jin Young just smiled at you, what a surprise. Sian Woo just smiled back. Does he really think I don't notice him staring at me? Su Kaiyong stubbornly tried to convince her. Otherwise, why would he be staring at you like that? Jin Young, on this side, was still trying to maintain the smile while voicing his concern. But at this distance, she shouldn't be able to see me. Do I really have to control my expression? Jason just blankly explained. Because looking at you makes me uncomfortable. He continued to give instructions. Turn around. If you keep looking at her, people will misunderstand. This change left Sian Woo a bit confused. She spoke to her friend. Hey Su Kaiyong, do you know who he is? Su Kaiyong kindly provided some info. Of course. Jin Young is pretty famous among the girls. Hearing this, Sian Woo just let out an oh. Is that so? She didn't forget to add more. A few girls have tried talking to him, but followed by a comment from Su Kaiyong. Rumor has it he's not interested in girls. Jin Young's outlook on life was clearly expressed. He doesn't care about dating and just mind his own business. Is he the cool guy type? I guess that kind of thing works on girls. After she finished talking, Su Kaiyong laughed. But why ask? Are you starting to pay attention because he just looked at you? Sian Woo replied gently. What? No, it's just that, deep down, she was remembering their encounter on the street. Accordingly, Sian Woo playfully commented. There's something about him that makes me feel uneasy. In front of the door to class 22, Jin Young's voice rang out. Hey Jason. He was currently standing at the back of the class. The more I think about it, the more I think this strategy sucks. Hearing this, Jason couldn't help but feel curious. Why do you say that? Jin Young glanced at him and questioned. The point is to get me used to her face and stay calm, right? Jason confirmed with one word. Right. He continued his thought. But to do that, I have to follow her around and stare at her. The more he spoke, the more uncomfortable he felt. Then I'd be a total stalker. It just looks even weirder. This new topic sent Jason into deep thought. Being a loser or being a stalker? Quite the dilemma. This harsh but true comment hit Jin Young's pride. Yuvanadi. He crossed his arms and muttered. Maybe it's better if I just look at her photos. Wouldn't that be better than looking at her directly if I can find her Instagram or something? Jason fully supported this plan. Sounds good. Jin Yong asked back as if he couldn't believe his ears. Really? He continued to encourage him. Then go ask for it. Hearing this, Jin Yong grew even more doubtful. Directly? Jason just snapped back. What else? Stalking her Instagram is even weirder. Jin Yong didn't forget to remind him. That's a bit harsh. After that, he gathered all his courage and stopped in front of Sian Wu. Can I have her Instagram? She was silent for a while after hearing those words. But finally, Sian Wu decided to give it to him. Sure, why not? She kindly suggested. Open the app. I'll type it in. Jin Yong obediently followed suit, while silently commenting in his head. That was much easier than I thought. Sian Wu took the phone and started scrolling. Let's see. She couldn't hide the shock on her face, because Jin Yong's account looked extremely empty. A remark followed. Hey Jin Yong, did you just create this account? Jin Yong admitted without hesitation. Why? He was thinking to himself. I don't usually use social media, so I just rushed to make one. Is there a problem? Sian Wu didn't answer, but just burst out laughing. This made Jin Yong even more curious. Why is she laughing? Then she pointed at him and declared. So that means I'm the first person you look for after creating the account. A moment of silence passed. Only now did Jin Yong realize his fatal mistake. Oh crap, Sian Wu held her stomach, laughing hysterically. Oh my god, this is seriously so funny. I was too focused on the goal. I should have thought before I acted. He had no choice but to call for help from the person beside him. What do I do now? Jason, however, could only provide a pathetic comment. Jin Yong hesitantly stammered. I mean, yeah, you're just the first person I happened to meet after I made the account. I didn't even notice. No, my loser nature is showing. Sian Wu didn't stop smiling. Then she stepped closer and reassured him. It's okay, followed by a playful suggestion. But aren't you curious about my phone number too? Jin Yong was completely petrified. He stammered, unable to speak, but he still tried to squeeze out a few words. Well, seeing his struggle, Sian Wu became even more amused. I'm just kidding. Your reaction is really funny. She held the phone out to Jin Yong. Here's your phone. After walking away, Sian Wu didn't forget to call back. Remember to like all my posts. See ya. Jin Yong was left alone with a flood of thoughts. Scenes from the past were involuntarily recalled. Please marry me. Do you think naming the baby Mi-suk is okay? That's so cheesy. I hate you guys. You little brat. Seeing this, Jin Yong kept reminding himself. Stop thinking about that. Night began to fall. In a room in an apartment building, Sian Wu was lying on her bed with her phone in hand. She commented cheerfully while scrolling through her phone. What's this? Because on the screen right now was a selfie of Jin Yong. His taste in photos is really terrible. Meanwhile, he had long since fallen asleep. The notification from his phone was completely ignored. Instagram 12:19 a.m. Young Sian Wu liked your photo. Only Sian Wu knew what she had just done. On the other side, Su Kaiyong immediately screamed when she found out. Oh my god, no way. He even asked for your Instagram? Jin Yong actually did that. Sian Wu held her head high, looking very confident. And with a brand new account, too. For real. The other girl became even more excited. That's crazy. He definitely likes you. She suddenly stopped smiling and questioned. Hey Su Kaiyong, I have a question. Su Kaiyong was still in a good mood. What is it? It turned out Sian Wu was questioning Jin Yong's sexual orientation. Is it true that he's normally not interested in girls? She replied decisively. That's right. You're the only one he acts like that. It turned out Sian Wu was questioning Jin Yong's sexual orientation. Is it true that he's normally not interested in girls? She replied decisively. That's right. You're the only one he acts like that with. Then she came up with a bold idea. Now let me test it out and see if it's true. Sian Wu was a bit surprised. Ow! A second later, Su Kaiyong suddenly rushed into the hallway and started screaming. Oh my god! It turned out she was trying to use her charms as a test. I fell. Su Kaiyong's acting was very convincing. Her eyes were even teary. It hurts so much. Su Kaiyong's acting was very convincing. Her eyes were even teary. It hurts so much. But in Jin Yong's eyes, she was nothing more than a mindless rock. Su Kaiyong was still busy screaming when she was picked up like a radish being pulled from the ground. It hurts. Once done, he immediately left. Su Kaiyong was left with a ridiculous look on her face. Sian Wu's hysterical laughter immediately rang in Su Kaiyong's ears. Her shoulders shook, and she couldn't even speak. He picked you up like he was pulling a radish. Whatever. Anyway, I guess you were right. The person next to her stood still, feeling unimaginably embarrassed. That bastard. On this side, the advisor Jason appeared again. So, are you used to that girl's face yet? He was still busy staring at his phone. I don't know. I'm still observing her. But whatever he saw, Jin Yong's face quickly changed color. He was stalking Xian Wu's profile. Every time he saw her, it was like a new surprise. On the screen was a photo of a beauty in the sunset with a caption. Su Kaiyong heard that and understood the problem immediately. You still have a lot to learn. He rubbed his chin as if in deep thought. I think we need to find the root cause. Jin Yong immediately perked up to listen. The root cause. Jason's question hit Jin Yong's biggest concern right on the head. Why is she the only one who doesn't look like a rock? He was still rambling on. I've come up with a few hypotheses. Suddenly, he screamed at the top of his lungs. Wait, because the great beauty was standing not far away. Xian Wu was there. Not knowing what she was worried about, she muttered as she walked. I am doomed. On the contrary, Jason was much calmer. I see it too. Meanwhile, Jin Yong was so flustered he started stammering. What? What is she doing here? But it was too late to run because Xian Wu had already spotted him. She immediately approached and gave a friendly greeting. It's Jin Yong. Hey there. Jin Yong felt like his tongue had been pulled out, and his face turned bright red. Finally, he managed to open his mouth for a social remark. Why are you standing here? Xian Wu replied gloomily. I need to catch a bus home, but I don't have any fare. Xian Wu flashed a cute smile. I live over in Simo village. As soon as she said it, he froze. Wait, what? Jin Yong couldn't wrap his head around it for a second. If you live in Simo village, you could just walk. It's right nearby. She looked like she knew he'd say that. It wasn't that simple. He immediately asked back out of reflex. What? A flicker of tension and embarrassment suddenly crossed Xian Wu's face. She didn't dare look him in the eye anymore. I have chronic anemia. Hearing that, Jin Yong wished he could hand over his entire life savings to the beauty. This is all I have. Take it for the bus, okay? Xian Wu immediately waved him off. No, no. She burst out laughing and playfully slapped his bicep. I feel like I'm bothering you. Just walk me home, Jin Yong. He thought he was mishearing things. Wait, what? Xian Wu didn't give him a chance to refuse. You're not going to leave me here, right? It's this way. Jin Yong could only awkwardly clutch his own arm. Hold on. It felt like a bolt of lightning had struck right next to his ear. Just like that, out of nowhere. Along the way, Xian Wu talked a lot. But it was mostly her just monologuing to herself. Jin Yong's mind was a complete mess. He couldn't hear a single word she was saying. Noticing the person beside her wasn't responding, Xian Wu tilted her head. Are you even listening to me? But he couldn't find any words. This was so sudden. I never thought we'd end up walking together like this. Jin Yong was so nervous his hand instinctively tightened on his backpack strap. I feel incredibly awkward right now. He suddenly remembered his childhood. Something similar had happened back then. There was a girl I walked home with every day because we lived in the same direction. Naturally, I started developing feelings for her. But one day, they were suddenly blocked by some bullies. Isn't that Park Jin Yong and Kim Min? No way. Why are they together? Then they teased them with that classic kid joke. Are they dating? That little girl immediately screamed to deny it. What? No, we're not. Then, in her agitation, she hurt Jin Yong. Who would ever date someone like him? That was the end of that childhood romance. After that day, she never walked home with me again. Our relationship ended before I even got a chance to confess. This left him with a psychological scar. Basically, that's why this situation makes me so uncomfortable. I just want this to be over quickly. Jin Yong's pace instinctively quickened. Since Xian Wu usually takes the bus anyway, this shouldn't happen again. Suddenly, a strange sound came from behind. Xian Wu was sprawled on the ground with teary eyes. Jin Yong immediately ran over, so panicked his hands were shaking. What's wrong? Did you trip on something? She wailed while catching her breath. This stupid hill. I told you I have chronic anemia. Only then did he feel somewhat relieved. Oh, right. Xian Wu's slender hand reached out tremblingly. Can you help me up? Jin Yong didn't hesitate and quickly pulled his friend up. Sure, but it took a bit of a struggle for her to finally stand. Walk a little slower, okay? Xian Wu's voice was weak from being out of breath. Thanks, she sighed and groaned as she walked. I'm so dizzy. But then Xian Wu seemed to realize something. Her eyes fixed on Jin Yong's back. Damn it, the psychological trauma is acting up again. His movements just now were completely different from when he helped Su Kaiyong. Thinking about this, Sian Wu couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then she teased Jin Yong again. Even though you lifted Su Kaiyong like you were pulling a radish, you're so flustered you're tripping over your own feet. What are you talking about? Who's Su Kaiyong? But she didn't say anything else and ended the conversation there. Anyway, I'm home. Let's say goodbye here. Sian Wu waved and headed in a different direction. Thanks for walking me home. Bye. Jin Yong's face stiffened, his voice clearly showing regret. Bye. His eyes instinctively followed her retreating back. Finally, it's over. Realizing something, Jin Yong immediately hurried away. This is so embarrassing. Luckily, his back seemed to reflect the glow of the sunset. This won't happen again tomorrow. I hope she has bus money tomorrow and cures that chronic anemia, or whatever. That's the only way my peace will return. They headed in opposite directions, but then Sian Wu suddenly came to a halt. It seemed fate didn't want things to end so anticlimactically. Oh no, I almost forgot. Her voice made Jin Yong jump. Hey, Jin Yong. A second later, Sian Wu spoke urgently. I won't get my allowance for a few more days, so she was soon standing right in front of him with a radiant smile. I'll count on you again tomorrow. Sian Wu laughed while huffing and puffing. Geez, I'm already dizzy after just running a few steps. On this side, Jason mocked Jin Yong's words playfully. This is so awkward. I want to avoid it. I just hope it ends quickly. That's what you said. I have a question. His friend's face showed the clear excitement of a child given candy. What's wrong with you? But Jin Yong's smile vanished instantly because he saw the person in front of him collapse to the ground. Sian Wu, he was so panicked he couldn't control his voice. Are you okay? Sian Wu could barely breathe. I was an idiot to run like that. Jin Yong grew even more worried. Why did you run? Sit down and rest for a bit. The next day, as soon as she arrived in class, Sian Wu saw her friend acting up. What are you doing? Su Kaiyong was busy kicking the air, practicing low kicks. Her voice was a bit choked with frustration. For what? It turned out she was plotting to take down Jin Yong and give him a beating. Jason sat there in a very provocative pose, returning to the topic from yesterday. Why is Sian Wu the only one who doesn't look like a rock to you? Jin Yong's eyes looked ready to burn to ash. And why are you not wearing a shirt? He laughed, showing teeth so white you could use them as a mirror. Jason's gaze fell on the person sitting cross-legged in front of him. Sian Wu suddenly appeared. The reason she's the only one you don't see as a rock. He said each word mysteriously. Hearing this, Jin Yong's pupils nearly popped out. He struggled to find any words. Jin Yong's voice carried 3 parts helplessness, and the other 7 parts weren't any different. Is that really the only reason? Jason just gave a casual shrug. I can't think of anything else. He didn't bother saying more and just picked up his bag. Talk later. We have to get to school first. Since he's Jin Yong's imaginary friend, he had to go to school too. Phoenix. He regained his normal composure and left the room as usual. As soon as he entered the living room, a familiar voice rang out. Off to school. Jin Yong's father stood there with a stern face. Dad. He immediately bowed at a 90-degree angle. Good morning. His voice carried no emotion whatsoever. Have you eaten? Jin Yong was so nervous, he started breaking a cold sweat. I was going to head out without eating. I'm not very hungry. Then his father casually mentioned, your mother made some kimchi stew. He replied dismissively, that's irrelevant. I'll make sure to eat. Hearing that, Jin Yong's father immediately left in silence. I'm heading out then. The conversation ended as if they were 2 strangers. Yes, Dad. His voice got smaller and smaller. I'll eat something when I get back. In Jin Yong's eyes, only tension and fear remained. As soon as he reached school, he started talking to himself again. Jason, if your hypothesis is right, Jin Yong seems still worried about that girl. Does this mean my fate will be in Sian Wu's hands from now on? Jason, shrunk down to the size of a mouse, was currently sitting on his shoulder. Of course not. Why? Jin Yong compromised. I honestly hope your hypothesis is wrong. Don't worry too much. Suddenly, a clear voice rang out from behind. Part Jin Yong. Su Kaiyong stood there, tilting her head at him. Then a terrifying sentence came from those pretty lips. I'm going to beat you up. Hearing this, Jin Yong's face went blank. Wait, what? The opponent seemed very serious about this. I stayed up all night practicing low kicks just so I could give you a taste. He looked at the girl in front of him with a strange gaze. Who even are you? Su Kaiyong looked very dissatisfied. Seriously, I've never been so insulted in my life. The more he heard, the less Jin Yong understood. Insulted? She couldn't forget the moment she was carried like a little chick. Anyway, I'm not letting this go. Saying that, Su Kaiyong held up 3 fingers. I'll go easy on you and only give you 3 low kicks. Get ready. Jin Yong really didn't expect this to happen. No, why should I? Before he could finish, she launched a kick toward him. Shut up, you damn 4 eyes. Jin Yong didn't dare stay any longer and immediately bolted. What on earth is happening? Meanwhile, Su Kaiyong had no intention of letting it go. Are you running away? She immediately chased after him. I'm actually a pretty fast runner. Unlike Sun Wu, I'm not anemic. Jin Yong turned his head back, unable to hide the terror in his eyes. He saw Su Kaiyong charging toward him like a wild bull. He used every ounce of strength to run, feeling like a boulder was rolling toward him. Very quickly, she was right behind Jin Yong. Gotcha, sweetie. Su Kaiyong immediately raised her leg to kick. Seeing this, his face lost all color. But who would have guessed that Sian Wu would appear right at the corner of the hallway? What's going on? Why are you running so frantically? And Su Kaiyong's kick landed directly on her leg. It hurt so much Sun Wu's eyes rolled back. Her smile instantly froze like a rock. One kick was enough to tear Sun Wu's ankle ligaments. Seeing her friend unconscious, Su Kaiyong screamed in panic. Hearing that, Jin Yong whipped around and rushed towards Sian Wu. Sian Wu, are you okay? But in his rush, he tripped over his own feet and took a tumble. And so, Jin Yong broke the bridge of his own nose. The scene looked incredibly unsightly. Su Kaiyong was pale with fright. Both were quickly taken to the infirmary. I'm so sorry. They lay on 2 beds next to each other, staring at the ceiling. Sun Wu rested her head on her arm, looking quite relaxed. Su Kaiyong has always been a little weird like that. Jin Yong hummed a response to brush it off. It's fine, because that wasn't the main point of concern anyway. I'm alone with Sian Wu again. He immediately whispered Jason's name in distress. Jason, at this moment, he was wearing a very elegant outfit. I hope your loser nature doesn't wake up. Jin Yong's throat felt a bit tight at that. What are you doing? Jason grinned and gently swirled the porcelain cup in his hand. It's tea time. At this point, Jin Yong just had to accept his fate. Just as Jason said, I'm alone with Sian Wu again. Then he peeked at the person next to him, hoping he wouldn't say anything stupid. A second later, Sian Wu suddenly shifted positions, propping herself up to look at him. Jin Yong, do you know what for lunch today? Jin Yong hesitated for a moment, then replied. Lunch? I think it's fried croaker fish. As soon as he said it, the girl cheered happily. Awesome, only good stuff. He felt a bit awkward. Sun Wu casually asked another question. Jin Yong, do you usually eat breakfast before school? Surprisingly, Jin Yong answered very honestly. No, I usually skip meals. Hearing that, she was full of questions. Why do you have to be hungry? His voice grew softer, seeming a bit shy. My dad is always there in the morning, and it's a bit awkward being around him, so I leave early. The corners of Sian Wu's lips curled up slightly. You should try to get along with your dad more. Jin Yong could only give a forced laugh. Easier said than done. She continued the conversation very naturally. All right, remember when Suka? But his mind was drifting back to the past. I remember the first thing I said to Sian Wu when we first had close contact. Jin Yong had blurted out, "You're really pretty," and he regretted it immediately after. At first I thought I just let it slip because it had been so long since I'd seen a girl's face. Jin Yong couldn't help but stare at Sian Wu. But looking at her now, she really was beautiful. Sun Wu felt it too and immediately teased him with a laugh. Hey, what are you looking at? Am I that beautiful? Jin Yong shot up like a spring. No, it's not like that. I wasn't looking at you. Realizing he'd overreacted, his face turned red as a beet. Inside, his head was a mess. Is she teasing me? Sian Wu also shifted herself to face Jin Yong. Teasing you is so much fun. Jin Yong was so tense his whole body curled into a ball. What do you mean by that? She sat on the edge of the bed, her legs swinging slightly. Exactly what I said. Sian Wu had already read him like a book. You get flustered so easily if I push a little. And every time you're flustered, you say the weirdest things. Hearing that, he could only bow his head in embarrassment. She immediately burst out laughing. No, don't apologize. At this moment, Sian Wu's face was brighter than ever. It's just that you're so cute. Seeing this, Jin Yong's heart was doing hip-hop in his chest. Jason's words from this morning came back to him vividly. Is Jason's hypothesis right? Sun Wu suddenly appeared. That's the reason she's the only one you don't see as a rock. Perhaps his gaze was as if he had seen through the mortal world. Simply put, at this moment, Jin Young had completely accepted the fact that he had fallen in love with Sian Wu at first sight. Jason sat there, still maintaining his elegant appearance. I haven't thought of any other hypotheses yet. At this moment, he finally decided to open up. Outside, the sunlight gradually appeared from behind clouds, and time quietly ticked away. After discussing, the two chose. Soo-kyung, done? It's time to pay the price. When Jin Young grabbed her hand, she immediately thrashed like a fish. Wait a minute. Opposite them, Sian Wu was holding up a fist. You have to take responsibility for your actions, right? Su Kyong was still trying to plead. Oh, Jin Young, can you please let me go? But he just coldly let out a word as sharp as a knife. No. A second later, the person opposite rushed forward. Here I come. Then she powerfully launched a kick into both of their ribs. Middle kick. Jin Young stumbled from the momentum, completely speechless. Wait, why me too? Jin Young stood there dazed, listening to the other person speak. What? Love at first sight? You and me? The girl stood with one hand on her hip, her back turned to him. Sian Wu slowly turned her face back and continued. Just because I was a little nice to you, you went crazy with your delusions. Sian Wu gave a mocking smile. What a pathetic loser. Jin Young bolted upright in bed, his face still full of confusion. The person in the next bed spoke up. Did you have a nightmare or something? He looked at him and called for Jason. He looked at Jin Young and added, You're panting. Later, after hearing him recount it, he realized a dream where Sian Wu despised him. Is that so? Had his psychological trauma with women been triggered once again? Jin Young replied hesitantly. Yeah, I guess so. To be honest, I've been having the exact same dream lately. He heard that and asked, Since when? He quickly answered, Since that hypothesis appeared, that I liked Sian Wu at first sight. Jason let out a no. If that hypothesis is true, then you're dealing with unrequited love. Jin Young felt even more confused after hearing that conclusion. He was feeling scared. The advice I can give is to know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win 100 battles. Jin Young looked in shock at a grinning Jason. What? Jin Young muttered as he walked, and asked again. If you know yourself and the enemy, you don't need to fear the results of 100 battles. So you mean I should know more about Sian Wu? He immediately replied. Exactly. Saying this, he suddenly paused. Thinking back, I really don't know much about her. I think this is a good strategy. Thank goodness. The two stopped in front of a classroom door. Class 5, this is Sian Wu's class. Jin Young slowly opened the door and stepped in. I'm so nervous. Jason reassured him softly. Don't shake like that, buddy. As soon as he stepped inside, Jin Young immediately froze. He scanned the room and wondered to himself. Is Sian Wu not here? Did she go to the bathroom? The one sitting on Jin Young's shoulder suddenly bolted off. Hey, another student stepped up and spoke. That's my seat. It was Lim Kyumin. Jin Young didn't say anything and just stood there staring. As soon as he realized, he hurried to make way for him. Sorry, I'll move right now. Jason spoke up with a bit of irritation. There's something about this pig that annoys me. I have an urge to commit a crime. Jin Young politely went to ask Kyumin. Hey, have you seen Sian Wu? This is Sian Wu's seat, right? He glanced over and replied. Yeah, I guess there are types like that sometimes. Kyumin's next sentence made him freeze. A dazed rookie over a girl like her, his eyebrows knitted tightly, the corners of his mouth twitching as he thought. What's with that tone? He pulled out a gun from somewhere and said to Jin Young, Take the weapon, buddy. Jason, let's stop this time. He was about to scold him, but managed to stop himself. Stop talking nonsense. I mean, buddy, do you really not know where Sian Wu went? Kyumin answered indifferently. Like I know everything about that damn girl. Jin Young was even more shocked by his attitude. What? He was also a bit annoyed now, but tried to hold back. That damn girl. Don't you dare insult Sian Wu. Kyumin crossed his arms and glanced at Jin Young. You're just another hopeless case. He suddenly took off his outer shirt and said, Stand up, man. The guy looked confused and asked, For what? Just stand up. I have something to show you. Kyumin stood up while adjusting his glasses. Why though? Before he could finish his sentence, he attacked with his jacket, whipping it at the pig. The blow immediately landed on that round belly, then another blow on the other side to balance it out. A series of whips followed, leaving Kyumin unable to resist. At that moment, the classroom door opened and Sian Wu walked in, asking, What's going on? Sounds like someone's slaughtering a pig in class. Seeing him, she changed her tone. Oh, Jin Young. Hey. He immediately changed his attitude to greet her. Sian Wu, I'm beating up this pig because he called you a damn girl. She just let out an ah. Cian Wu smiled and said, feel free to keep at it. He's always like that. Jin Yong, head full of question marks, turned to ask him, hey, why the hell do you act like that? She winked and explained, we've been like this since we were little. He couldn't help but ask back in surprise. Since you were little? Cian Wu looked at him cowering and stepped in to de-escalate. Human and I have been friends since we were kids. A while later, outside. Anyway, Jin Yong lowered his head and spoke. Sorry for hitting you. Human, sitting next to him, said quickly, it's fine, it didn't hurt. He looked up and asked the guy, you've been Cian Wu's friend since childhood? Human didn't hide anything and told him, yeah, since we were about 3. Jin Yong became excited, thinking this was the perfect chance to use Jason's strategy. I can learn so much more about Cian Wu. Suddenly, the guy turned and said, if you're aiming for Cian Wu, you're better off giving up. Those words left him a bit confused. Wait, what? Human explained in detail. I don't know if you've noticed, but Cian Wu is extremely popular. Suitors are lined up following her. He said those things with an incredibly calm face. The success rate is 0. Jin Yong finally realized and lowered his head again. That's true. I thought Cian Wu was very popular too. After all, she does have over 2,000 followers. He asked cautiously, but if she simply doesn't like any of them, it makes sense, right? Everyone has their own taste. Human heard that and answered, of course, that's entirely possible. The reason I told you to give up on Cian Wu isn't because of that. Jin Yong continued to ask in confusion. Then why is it? The guy started recounting everything. Cian Wu and I have known each other since we were little and always went to the same school, so we've been together a lot. But I think it was since middle school. At this point, Cian Wu was walking in the hallway when she was called over. Hey, you damn girl. Human raised his hand and asked her, what are you doing? If you have nothing better to do, go buy me some bread. Cian Wu suddenly let out an ah, making him pause. Her face suddenly darkened. Human, is that you? The guy felt something and thought to himself, I feel like something is wrong with Cian Wu. She still smiles like usual, but that isn't Cian Wu. I can't understand what that indescribable feeling is, and it still lingers to this day. Back to the present, Human continued. Anyway, since that day, there's been something very strange about Cian Wu. Jin Yong sat beside him, listening. That's why I told you to give up. He was extremely curious and couldn't help but wonder. Strange? In what way? Exactly what does it feel like? I've never felt that kind of atmosphere from Cian Wu. Anyway, this seems like the kind of story I can ignore. After all, it's just that pig's personal opinion. The two were walking in the hallway when they were stopped by a voice. Oh, what's this? Cian Wu asked with a smile. Since when did you two get so close? Hanging out together and everything. Jin Yong cried out in shock. Cian Wu heard him call and asked, where were you just now? Jin Yong stammered, about to speak but stopped. Well, I definitely shouldn't say we were talking about her. I need to think of something. Brupe. Human suddenly spoke loudly. We were just bad-mouthing you, you damn girl. He was startled by him and screamed in his heart. For real? What the hell is wrong with this pig? Cian Wu heard that and asked loudly. What? She looked at them both with a bit of shock. You guys are talking behind my back? Seriously? Jin Yong hurriedly explained. That's not it, Cian Wu. Su Kaiyong spoke up excitedly. I knew it. Part Jin Yong is a total moron. Hearing that made him even more flustered. I told you that's not it. Human didn't bother explaining and instead added fuel to the fire. It was just a bunch of really harsh insults about how ugly your face is. He took off his jacket again and lunged forward. Shut your mouth, you pig. A punch landed right in the guy's stomach. Then another blow struck Human's other side. Jason pulled out his gun again and spoke up. If you were a second slower, I would have turned him into Swiss cheese. Cian Wu watched them fighting and wondered to himself. What on earth is going on? Su Kaiyong turned around to leave. Just ignore those two idiots. Cian Wu watched them fighting and wondered to himself. What on earth is going on? Su Kaiyong turned around to leave. Just ignore those two idiots. In the afternoon, golden light washed over the city below. Jin Yong grumbled as he walked out of the school gates. We have a big problem. We haven't learned much about Cian Wu, and it seems like the misunderstandings are just piling up. He responded from his shoulder. It's all that pig's fault. The two of them talked as they walked, unaware that someone was following them. It kept babbling on about some out-of-sync feeling or whatever. It needed to be dealt with immediately. A voice called out, and Jason vanished instantly. Cian Wu smiled as she approached and asked, Is bad-mouthing me that much fun? He trembled and backed away when he saw her. Xian-Wu. Jin Yong blushed, thinking to himself. Seriously, Xian-Wu might be. He looked at her and laughed to himself, thinking, sometimes she's a bit too blunt. Jin Yong hurriedly tried to explain. Xian-Wu, actually, I wasn't bad-mouthing you. She replied immediately. I know. Human was probably just joking. That's just the way he is. You would never do something like that. More importantly, walk me home, Jin Yong. Hearing that, he asked curiously, why? Did you run out of bus money again today? Xian-Wu finished her reply and kept talking. Those words made his anger flare up. Just thinking about climbing that hill is already a pain. Xian-Wu finished her reply and kept talking. Those words made his anger flare up. Just thinking about climbing that hill is already a pain. I guess I should hide the fact that we were talking about her for now. Is that so? A sound rang out. Jin Yong heard it and looked up. Xian-Wu walked over to the front of the hill and spoke. I hate climbing hills. She replied immediately when he asked. Of course, typical symptoms of chronic anemia are weakness and fatigue. Especially when climbing stairs or hills, I get short of breath and a headache. Even when I'm standing still, I lose my breath. Jin Yong listened and sighed. You've really had a hard time. Xian-Wu suddenly turned around and pointed behind her. So, just push me from behind, Jin Yong. Startled by her request, he couldn't help but ask. Huh? Push your back. Is that okay? Xian-Wu smiled happily and urged Jin Yong on. Hurry up and push. Don't you want to go home? Oh, right. He tremblingly placed both hands on her back. Jin Yong used all his strength and lunged forward. How's this? Is it better? Xian-Wu replied excitedly. It's definitely much easier to climb. She burst out laughing and tilted her face. But that tickles so much. Hearing that, he stopped in his tracks. It tickles. Xian-Wu turned her face back and answered. Yeah, my back is a bit sensitive. Jin Yong's face turned bright red, and he pursed his lips, thinking to himself. This is really worrying me. Jokes like this. Jin Yong's face turned bright red, and he pursed his lips, thinking to himself. This is really worrying me. Jokes like this. Now Jin Yong, slow down a bit. We're feeling more comfortable with each other now. Just trust me. Oh my God. Will there ever be a day when I carry Xian-Wu on my back along this road? Jason clapped his hands excitedly. Hooray, that's so sweet and cute. You're right, Jason. This level of delusion is probably fine, right? It's not like I'm naming our grandchildren or anything. Definitely, because I have the right to imagine. A voice called out, cutting through Jin Yong's train of thought. Zong, Xian-Wu shouted, her whole body trembling. Part Jin Yong, I told you to push slowly. I feel like I'm going to die from lack of air. He immediately pulled his hands back and said quickly, Sorry, I was being reckless. She leaned on her knees, gasping for air. The view. Jin Yong's eyes wandered and accidentally caught sight of something. He looked down at the city and thought to himself, the view from here is beautiful. Having a clear view like this feels really nice. So Xian-Wu lives near a place like this. Suddenly, someone spoke up, catching Jin Yong's attention. Oh, what's this? She walked over to stand near him and asked, There's a place like this near my house. I had no idea. Jin Yong was a bit surprised and asked back, Really? Is this your first time seeing this place? Xian-Wu replied with a smile. Chronic anemia patients can't exactly climb to this height. He realized she was right and said to himself, That makes sense. She smiled, but her words were terrifying. Besides, I'm exhausted because of you, and I still have to walk home. You want a murder on your hands. Jin Yong felt guilty and said quickly, I'm really sorry. Xian-Wu suddenly continued. But even so, since you show me a place like this, I'll let you off the hook today. He froze up when he heard those words. She reached up to tuck her hair behind her ear and gave a bright smile. It's beautiful. Jin Yong's lips moved as if he wanted to say something. That out of sync feeling Cumin mentioned feeling from Xian-Wu. I don't actually know what that feeling is. But if the fact that I can't see anything but Xian-Wu right now is that out of sync feeling, then maybe this is it? He stood in silence, thinking for a long time. Jin Yong clenched his fists and called out. Xian-Wu, actually, Cumin was right. I was talking about you behind your back. Actually, Cumin was right. I was talking about you behind your back. It's just that I found out Cumin was your childhood friend, so he mustered all his courage to tell Xian-Wu the truth. I wanted to know more about you. Her eyes widened in surprise, and her cheeks flushed pink. Jin Yong held out both hands and continued to explain. And that's why it ended up looking like we were talking behind your back. But we didn't say anything bad, I swear. He awkwardly reached up to scratch his head. I just didn't want you to misunderstand. Sian Wu said nothing and glanced down at the scenery below. She turned back to look at him and asked with a smile, "Is that so? Why do you care about that so much?" "I already forgot about it anyway." Jin Young was surprised by that and blurted out, "Really?" Sian Wu answered immediately, "Of course. Let's head back." He watched her walk down the hill on her own, worried. "Are you okay walking down the hill?" Sian Wu waved cheerfully at Jin Young. "Yeah, no problem. It's a bit of a detour, but thanks for walking me home. See ya." He watched from a distance and replied, "Yeah, bye." While Jin Young was still feeling awkward, Jason appeared. Sitting on his shoulder, Jason rubbed his chin and spoke. Her reaction was pretty vague. Jin Young heard him and called out, "Jason." He looked down and continued, "I'm still suspicious. I don't know if you needed to be that honest." He looked down a bit skeptical. "Really?" Jason replied with a smile. "I get that you want to be honest with her, but sometimes it's better to just keep quiet and let things go." I can't help but wonder what she's actually thinking. Sian Wu was walking when she suddenly stopped. She suddenly remembered the scene from earlier. "I want to know more about you." She suddenly remembered the scene from earlier. "I wanted to know more about you." After speaking, she slowly continued walking. Sian Wu suddenly fell to the curb, out of breath again. In the morning, early sunlight shone down on the city. Jason's eyes widened in surprise as he looked at him and asked, "It's been a while since you played soccer, hasn't it, buddy?" "Yeah." Jin Young was a bit happy to hear that. "That's good. Sweat a little and become a real man." He glanced at Jason and replied, "Yeah, I know." Jin Young suddenly saw something and froze. He looked down at the two laces coming undone at his feet. His shoelace had come untied. He looked down at the two laces coming undone at his feet. His shoelace had come untied. He looked up to see her glaring at him with contempt. Who just plops down while they're walking? Part Jin Young, you almost got hurt. Do you want to die? That was Han Jiao, 26 years old. Jin Young let out a breath and called out, Miss Han Giul." She suddenly pushed his head back down. "Don't look at me, look down." Jin Young asked, confused. Why? Why? Han Jiao couldn't believe it. "You really don't know? If you look from below, I look ugly. Girls hate being looked at from below." She bent down and pushed Jin Young's head even lower. "Besides, it's embarrassing." "You idiot." Han Jiao walked away as she spoke. "From now on, don't just stop abruptly while walking." He silently turned his head to watch her walk away. Jin Young waited until Han Jiao was gone before saying, "I've seen her as a rock for so long that I didn't really care. If you said that to Ms. Han Jiao, you probably would have been beaten to a pulp." The fear of rejection. I started seeing all girls as rocks. I started seeing all girls as rocks. Furthermore, to never be rejected by anyone again, I felt like I needed to improve myself. The most natural way is to focus on self-development, like studying or exercise. As a result, Jin Young kicked the ball on the field with a powerful strike. Human reached out to stop it, but was too late. Goal! A crowd of students quickly surrounded him. Jin Young is as good as always. Good thing you're in our class. He stood at a distance, deep in thought, watching Jin Young, the same guy who used to crush the 5th grade. Su Kaiyong happened to pass by and saw them. Her voice caught Sian Wu's attention. "Look, the boys are playing soccer. Part Jin Young is there too." She looked over and said calmly, "Is that so?" Suddenly, a voice of praise rang out. "Doesn't he look too handsome?" 3 female students sitting below watched and blushed as they complimented him. "He definitely stands out." Sian Wu's cheeks also turned slightly pink as she watched. Jin Young, compliments from the girls kept pouring out. Usually he doesn't say much, but he looks so cool when he's being active. "I heard he's not interested in girls. Doesn't that make him even more attractive?" Totally that cool, charming vibe. Su Kaiyong heard this and asked in confusion, "Good grief, what kind of nonsense are these kids talking?" She asked Sian Wu, puzzled. "Why is Park Jin Young so popular? You don't think he's cool and charming? Doesn't that sound a bit contradictory?" After hearing the question, she tilted her head and thought about it. Images from the past flashed through her mind, making Sian Wu burst out laughing. She sucked on a lollipop and replied, "Actually, that is true." In the middle of the schoolyard, melodic music played. "Great job, everyone." A group of students walked together, chatting busily. "We won thanks to Jin Young. Everyone did great. Let's play again tomorrow." "I'm soaked in sweat. I should go to the faucet and wash up a bit before going home." Jin Young walked over and turned on the faucet. The water gurgled out. He caught it in his hands and splashed it on his face. Suddenly a voice spoke up, catching Jin Young's attention. "That shot earlier was amazing." Human approached from behind. I never thought anyone could fire a shot I couldn't stop. He turned his head and saw him standing there. Is that you, Cumin? You were great at goalkeeping today, too. He suddenly said something that stunned Jin Yong. It's so unfair. He asked back, confused. What? Cumin didn't answer, but asked another question. Do you know what the dark side of soccer is? Jin Yong didn't want to hear it and replied immediately. I'm not interested. He ignored him and answered his own question anyway. If we lose, the goalkeeper gets blamed. Even if I block 10 shots, if I miss just one, it's all my fault. It's really unfair, isn't it? That's why I'm annoyed with you. Jin Yong was a bit curious at this point. He looked him straight in the eye and answered. Because I couldn't stop your shot, and that pisses me off. Jason had picked up an axe at some point. This pig is starting again. Whoa, wait a second. Jason, Cumin suddenly used his hand to block the flowing faucet. The water splashed all over Jin Yong, making him jump back to avoid it. No matter how much he dodged, he still got splashed. It's freezing. Jin Yong wasn't about to take it and did the exact same thing to get revenge. Are you crazy, you pig? He laughed out loud and made the water pressure even stronger. Stop resisting. 4 eyes. He immediately fired back. You're wearing glasses, too. 2 girls walking up were confused by the sight of the bickering. And on top of that, you're always following Cian Wu around. What kind of nonsense are you talking? You want me to turn you into steamed pork with garlic? Su Kaiyong asked Cian Wu, puzzled. Isn't that the pig's voice and Jin Yong's? Why are they screaming? She glanced over and replied, I don't know. I can't hear clearly. Seeing that, Su Kaiyong suggested, how about we go see what kind of act they're putting on? Cian Wu quickly agreed. Yeah, let's go. The 2 of them stood there, panting heavily from exhaustion. Jin Yong angrily pointed at his face and shouted, This is so annoying. I'm soaked because of you. He didn't say anything, but suddenly took his shirt off entirely. Just take it off and wring it out. You're acting like it's a huge deal. Seeing that, he cursed. Damn it, seriously. Jin Yong also reached down to pull his shirt up. I'm going to give you a beating after school. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Hey, you guys. Cian Wu approached from a distance and asked, What are you doing? The bell already rang. Shouldn't you be in class? He had just finished taking his shirt off when he saw her approaching, and Jin Yong's face immediately froze. Su Kaiyong's eyes widened at the scene, while Cian Wu smiled and spoke. You. The 2 girls accidentally looked to the side. Cumin was standing there with his big belly fully exposed. The girls' expressions immediately shifted from amusement to disgust. Cian Wu and Su Kaiyong turned their heads away instantly. Su Kaiyong added, Oh damn, I shouldn't have told you to come look at this. Right? Do you want to die? The fat guy heard them from afar and shouted, What did you guys just say? Su Kyong replied, I sincerely apologize. Cumin was completely drowning in utter humiliation. He blurted out, Those damn girls. The male lead replayed the disastrous exposure in his head before letting out a sharp gasp. Cian Wu had finally seen his body. He dug his fingers into Cumin's soft flesh with a painful squeeze. He blamed the fat guy entirely for this embarrassing incident. It's all this pig's fault. As the girls left, the voices of the male lead and the fat guy still echoed back. Let go of me, you damn 4 eyes. The male lead replied, Like I said, you're wearing glasses too. Cian Wu tilted her head with a thoughtful, speechless gaze. The next morning, bright sunlight shone down on the modern and spacious school campus. When Jin Yong swung his leg back powerfully to kick the ball on the lush green grass, the black and white ball soared into the air at an unbelievable speed. Crouching low with intense focus, Cumin caught the lightning-fast shot right in his stomach with a heavy thud, leaving Jin Yong trembling in disbelief and exhausted on the field. The group of boys cheered wildly at the impressive save. Cumin actually blocked Jin Yong's shot. That's pretty impressive. The fat guy spoke up. What's up? You're different from yesterday, Jin Yong. Today your shots are like you're hacking. Slumping with his shoulders loose, the male lead panted on the field. Huh? Dummy. While deep in his mind, a burly Jason sat quietly in the dark. Looks like you're not in top shape today. My friend, the male lead secretly admitted. I guess not. Turning his back on the rowdy soccer match, Jin Yong slowly dragged himself toward the concrete stands to recover. Since the first half is over, I'll go rest for a bit. He let out a long, weary sigh and collapsed onto the cold concrete steps, jumping in surprise when a familiar sweet voice suddenly called out from above. You look tired. Cian Wu stood gracefully on the steps behind him. She leaned forward with a beautiful, warm smile, her black hair blowing gently in the breeze as her neat uniform accentuated her figure. Jin Yong snapped his head around in total shock, looking up at her with wide eyes, completely unprepared for this unexpected encounter. His face turned bright red. Immediately turning his head to avoid her gaze, he said shyly, "Hurry up and sit down." Hearing that, she asked back, Why?" The male lead still insisted, "Just do what I say." The male lead thought to himself, "A rock. Miss Aiel was right. I didn't realize it because she looked like a rock." Xian Wu looked down at him with a gentle gaze mixed with slight confusion. Her pale skin and dark eyes were perfectly illuminated, while Jin Yong realized the sensitive vulnerability of his low perspective. But looking at Xian Wu from below right now was a bit embarrassing. Xian Wu looked down at him with a gentle gaze mixed with slight confusion. Her pale skin and dark eyes were perfectly illuminated, while Jin Yong realized the sensitive vulnerability of his low perspective. But looking at Xian Wu from below right now was a bit embarrassing. Looking at her in total panic, he clumsily over-explained a teacher's weird lecture about angles. "It's just that Ms. Aiel said everyone looks really ugly when viewed from below. Oh, and girls hate being looked at from below." She suddenly pointed at herself and asked, "Ah, I see. So do I look really ugly?" The male lead, being misunderstood, replied, "Huh? No, actually, you still look really pretty even when viewed from below." Xian Wu, those honest words made him realize he had let something slip. A gorgeous rosy flush immediately spread across Xian Wu's cheeks as she gently touched her face with a mischievous hum. The male lead thought tremblingly. "Ah, crap, did I just?" An inner voice rang out. He had walked right into her trap. Sitting comfortably in the void, a massive Jason analyzed the disastrously sweet slip of the tongue, while Jin Yong desperately begged for a tactical escape plan from this intense romantic tension. Just like before, he had walked right into the trap Xian Wu had set for him. "Well, pretty even for below. That is almost unbearably sweet." The male lead added, "What should I do now?" Jason continued, "What are you talking about? What do you mean, what should I do? Figure out yourself. I'm done with this." The male lead shouted in his mind. "Jason, no, I can't do anything. I've seen too many cases where trying to take back what you said just makes things weirder. Yeah, truly, the mouth is the body's downfall." Xian Wu rested her pretty chin gently on her hand, looking at him with an incredibly deep, warm smile, her dark eyes sparkling with undeniable romantic interest. A completely empty white space hung there, letting the heavy, sweet tension settle completely between them. Xian Wu cheerfully broke the silence with a bright smile, relieving the burden on the drenched male lead. He visibly relaxed as he realized she had gracefully accepted that embarrassing compliment. "Thanks for the compliment. You said something nice to make me happy, right?" The male lead thought. "Are we just going to let that go?" She smiled happily and continued. "Compliments always feel good to hear." He then added, "Yeah, that's true." She replied with a hint of jealousy. "I hear the other girls complimenting you all the time, too. Zhang, they say you're cool and charming and stuff." She replied with a hint of jealousy. "I hear the other girls complimenting you all the time, too. Zhang, they say you're cool and charming and stuff." Leaning impossibly close with her black hair falling lightly over her shoulders, Xian Wu playfully challenged his denial. "Really? I don't think what they said is wrong." Trembling slightly with beads of sweat on his forehead, Jin Yong looked at her in pure confusion, desperate for a clear explanation. "Oh, really? In what way?" Xian Wu's soft pink lips perfectly captured her playful teasing. Just before a vivid flashback of his muscular, drenched, shirtless body from the day before appeared, she gave a bright, blushing smile. Xian Wu whispered softly, easily delivering a devastatingly sweet confirmation of his hidden sex appeal. In many ways, those heart-stopping words from her intimate confession. Jin Yong's mouth hung slightly open as a deep rosy flush completely took over his face, leaving him entirely speechless while Xian Wu looked back with a warm smile, her dark eyes filled with undeniable affection. The intense, sweet romantic bubble was suddenly burst by a loud shout from the soccer field, making Jin Yong quickly stand up from the concrete steps. "Hey Jin Yong, play hard in the second half." He replied, "Oh, right." As he stepped onto the field, her voice echoed back. Xian Wu sat gracefully in the stands. She cheerfully clenched her fists to cheer him on. "Bring home the win. You can do it. Hey, let's get started." Stepping firmly onto the lush green grass, Jin Yong stomped his brown shoes into the ground, completely revitalized by the sweet interaction. Sprinting confidently across the field with a quick whoosh, he felt a sudden, inexplicable burst of athletic energy, completely shaking off his previous fatigue. You know, Jason, I don't understand why. I wasn't feeling very well a moment ago. The ball was passed directly to him as he skillfully dribbled past opponents, his entire body moving with absolute precision and zero effort. In the first half, the ball had reached Jin Yong's feet. Block him, he thought, but now strangely my body feels so light. How did that even happen? Standing proudly in the dark void with his muscular arms crossed, Jason smiled warmly, fully understanding the powerful romantic motivation driving his best friend. I think you already have the answer to that. It's because she's watching you, sitting quietly on the concrete steps under the brilliant early morning sky. Sian Wu closely followed his every move, acting as the ultimate source of strength for his newfound vigor. My friend, I'm a bit hesitant to say this because it sounds like I'm taking back the advice I gave, but perhaps with a perfectly executed powerhouse kick, Jin Yong fires the ball straight past Kumin's desperate dive and into the net with a thunderous crack, claiming his absolute victory. Those tiny little circuits of happiness in you probably aren't such a bad thing after all. Surrounded by teammates, cheering in excitement, Jin Yong beamed with an incredibly happy smile, his heart completely filled with pure joy under the bright sun. It's in. That's our Jin Yong. He's the MVP. Ha! A brilliant white transition shifts the rowdy celebration back to a moment of peaceful romantic realization. Still sitting gracefully in the stands, Sian Wu smiled softly as she heard the distant complaints. Her beautiful face was perfectly illuminated by an infatuated rosy flush as she watched the boy she liked shine. This is so annoying. Don't be too sad, Kumin. I'll never forgive you. Park Jin-young. The clear blue sky stretched peacefully over the vast school grounds, beautifully marking the undeniable, heartwarming success of the male leads match. It's truly great. In a quiet, secluded corner, Ms. Hai-yeol stood sternly with her clipboard. She observed the two of them with an amused, knowing smile, remembering the male lead's earlier words. Actually, you still look really pretty even when viewed from below. Sian Wu. She thought to herself. Look at you, looking all pleased with yourself. This kid, under the crystal-clear blue sky, the grand exterior of the modern apartment complex stood peacefully in the morning sun. Stepping into the kitchen, Jin Yong paused by the door with his backpack on his shoulder. His mother's voice echoed from the living room. What do you mean by that? We already bought the tickets and now we can't go? That's such a bummer. The father replied. They said everything at the construction site is a mess. What do you want me to do? I have to work. Suddenly turning toward the hallway, his mother's face immediately lit up with a sudden idea. She called out to her son. Then what about these tickets? Jin Yong stood frozen near the door, answering as his mother quickly stood up from her chair. Are you heading to school? Yes. Have you eaten anything? The male lead tried to brush off the fact that he hadn't eaten breakfast. I'll just buy some kimbap on the way. His mother immediately said. That's not a real meal. A bead of sweat rolled down Jin Yong's pale cheek as he stared straight ahead, silently admitting to his empty stomach. Actually, I am hungry. Eating with Dad still feels a bit heavy, though. The Jason inside him spoke up. Even so, you should eat properly, buddy. His mother looked at the male lead and held out 2 tickets. Right, I got these from a neighbor. Do you want to go see this over the weekend? They're theater tickets. Go see it with a friend this weekend. Your father was originally going to go with me, but he has to work. I thought we'd finally get to go out together after such a long time. Jin Yong looked at the tickets in his hand and thought to himself, a play and 2 tickets. Who should I go with? An unexpected romantic vision suddenly flooded his mind. He tried asking his friends while walking. I'm sorry, Jin Yong, I think I'm going to be sick that day. His friend spoke up aggressively. We can't go with you. I gotta hit the club with some girls. And as for that pig, I don't feel like watching a play with him. Kumin shot back immediately. What? What the hell are you talking about? Anime my ass. I'm going to get a snack. Leaving Jin Yong all alone. He sank into thought. That's weird. Why did I assume the pig likes anime? Jason sat on his shoulder and said, You really can't judge a book by its cover. In short, it looks like you've been rejected by everyone. Now what? He grumbled as he walked. This is tough. Jason watched the male lead in silence for a while before deciding to speak up. You want to go with Sian Wu, don't you? Like I wouldn't know. Just a while ago you were pale with fear, and now you can't think about anyone but her. The male lead frantically stammered out an excuse. That's not it, Jason. Jason cut him off. I think it's time for you to make a choice. Completely stunned, the male lead repeated, Huh? What choice? Suddenly, a woman's voice called him back. Hey, Park Jin-young. The beautiful but terrifying Ms. Hyeol crossed her arms over her chest, looking down at him with overwhelming authority. Aren't you going to greet your teacher? Jin-young backed away in terror, stammering, Ms. Hyeol, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. The teacher leaned in, her dark eyes narrowing dangerously, delivering a precise and terrifying accusation. I knew it. You were talking to yourself while walking. Do you happen to create imaginary friends and talk to them? Jin Yong's entire face immediately went pale. He looked at her with utter horror, screaming in his mind as his deepest secret was discovered. Sitting together on a wooden bench in the peaceful schoolyard, Hyeol casually led the conversation. So, there's a girl you want to take to a play, right? Surrendering in total defeat, Jin Yong admitted while sweating profusely, Yes, that's right. She looked straight ahead and spoke. That girl Sunwoo is pretty popular, isn't she? The male lead replied in a panic. That's true, wait. What? How did you know it was Sunwoo? Hyeol perfectly analyzed the fear of romantic failure that was paralyzing him. Because yesterday, I heard all the cheesy stuff you poured out to that girl. Like you still look pretty even from below and all that. Hyeol perfectly analyzed the fear of romantic failure that was paralyzing him. Because yesterday, I heard all the cheesy stuff you poured out to that girl. Like you still look pretty even from below and all that. The teacher continued. Anyway, you're afraid of being rejected, aren't you? Jin Yong gripped his knees and explained heavily. Yes, it's embarrassing. But that's exactly it. Hyeol smiled. You mean asking Sian-woo, a girl, out in front of everyone? That's basically asking her on a date. It's practically a confession. She stood up abruptly with the bright sun behind her, confidently placing her hands on her hips. The day will come when you'll thank me. He was completely bewildered by her sudden confidence. He didn't even notice Sian-woo's arrival until Hyeol skillfully forced him into an incredibly awkward situation. Sian-woo, Jin Yong seems to have something to say, so listen to what he has to say. Sian-woo's voice rang out. Oh, what is it? Without a hint of mercy, the teacher announced loudly. Jin Yong wants to go see a play with you this weekend. Sian-woo blinked in total surprise, staring at him. Meanwhile, Jin Yong was screaming internally. Sian-woo's friend pointed straight ahead and burst out laughing. Huh? Did he say through teacher? What a wimp. Sian-woo also laughed but offered a helping hand. Don't say that. Hyeol cheerfully left the stunned male lead behind. Well then, go ahead and talk to Jin Yong. Sian-woo replied immediately. Yes, ma'am. Then they walked toward him together. Sian-woo called out. Jin Yong. A sense of dread washed over the male lead. Stepping extremely close, Sian-woo's sweet, clear voice immediately shattered what little composure he had left. You're planning to go see a play this weekend, right? Do you want to go with me? Jin Yong was completely paralyzed by the overwhelming power of her undeniable beauty. He sat frozen like a statue on the bench, his brain ceasing to function. She said it so casually, but it was basically a confession. Time jumped forward to a sunny weekend street, where Jin Yong stood alone in a dapper blue shirt. A tiny Jason relentlessly scolded his passive habit. At this rate, you'll end up spending the weekend with Sian-woo. You just said yes without even thinking. You really need to fix that habit of just letting things go with the flow. Jin Yong worried. I don't look weird, do I? Jason replied immediately. You look very sharp. Really? This is my first time wearing contacts, and they're incredibly uncomfortable. Jason was serious. My friend, that's not the important part. What kind of relationship do you want to have with Sian-woo? You need to decide right now. Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out. Well, Jin Yong, you look quite the part today. Sian-woo walked gracefully across the crosswalk. She was so breathtakingly beautiful that time seemed to stop. Her beautiful white off-the-shoulder top and dark skirt completely captivated the blushing male lead. A muscular Jason confidently promised absolute support. If you want to get over your trauma as your longtime friend, I'll do everything I can to help. Bathed in the warm and brilliant sunlight, Sian-woo smiled radiantly as they finally stood opposite each other on the bustling street. The whole world around them seemed to vanish. Actually, that's probably something that happens often. When you tell someone how you feel and get rejected, just try viewing all girls as rocks. In that sense, Jason's advice was perfect. When a boy and a girl are together, feelings are bound to arise. And once feelings are there, they'll want to get closer to each other. So, by viewing girls as rocks, it blocks that urge to get closer. Right? I feel comfortable like this. Even if it's something that always happens, I'm afraid of being rejected. Right? I feel comfortable like this. Even if it's something that always happens, I'm afraid of being rejected. Sitting elegantly by a large glass window, Sunwoo rested her chin on her hand, her stunning white off-the-shoulder top and radiant smile completely captivating the male lead. Jin-young, you drink espresso? You look so cool and grown-up. The male lead replied. Oh right. He thought to himself, I only ordered it because it was the cheapest thing. Sian-woo looked at him happily. How much longer until the play starts? About an hour. He looked and answered immediately. I think so. She followed up instantly. I've never seen a play before, so I'm really excited. Taking a sip of coffee to avoid her gaze, he gave a forced laugh. Haha. The male lead calculated silently. Anyway, according to what Jason said, if I let go of my feelings for Sian-woo by viewing her as a rock, I can avoid being rejected by her like in that dream. On the other hand, if I decide to get closer to Sunwoo, I'll have to overcome my own psychological trauma. But can I actually overcome it? As he was drowning in a negative spiral, Sian-woo pulled him out. What are you thinking about, Jin-young? The question startled Jin-young violently, and he stammered out a clumsy lie. It's just that the espresso tastes so bad that I... Sian-woo easily saw through his defense. Liar. You're thinking about something else. Thinking about something else while I'm right in front of you. The male lead replied, I'm really sorry. Without letting him say more, she continued. Besides, why did you order that bitter coffee instead of something like chocolate? He followed up, I'm sorry, she added. Those 2 hours were the time I spent preparing to meet you, doing my makeup, picking out clothes. I invested that much just to see you, so don't think about other things. Sian-woo rested her chin with a cute, slightly annoyed pout. Watching her made Jin-young think to himself, right, it's really rude to be absent-minded while Sunwoo is right in front of me. She then stood up and said, well, since you invited me to the play, I'll let it slide this time. It's time, let's go. Jin-young looked up at her wonderful figure with deep gratitude. Thank you. He stood up from the table with a decisive motion, telling himself to stay sharp. His dark eyes hardened with determination as he officially postponed the terrifying mental battle to enjoy her company and decide later. The large theater stage displayed a romantic play. O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? The male actor broke the romantic atmosphere with a ridiculously blunt and insulting reply. Because my mom gave me that name. You didn't even know that? You must not be very smart. The actress completely ignored the insult, desperately spreading her arms to embrace her rude lover. You really are the best. Romeo, come here to me. Shifting to a bustling amusement center, Sunwoo laughed happily beside him. Wow, that teddy bear is so cute. He said immediately. Want me to grab it for you? Why does it keep falling out? I've already spent 20,000 won on this thing. She just laughed it off. Haha. The date moved to a karaoke room with dim neon lights, where Jin-young sang lyrics loudly with his eyes closed. Never gonna give you up, Sian-woo commented. Wow, you're a really bad singer. Huh. They sat together in a cozy restaurant where she gently cut his food for him. The romantic atmosphere was thick as they casually chatted about friends. So at that time, the male lead asked her, You're really close with Soo Kyung, aren't you? A soft transition captured the quiet beauty of a city street at night. The stunning sky framed the image of them walking side by side on the road, completely content with a long day together as they reached the edge of her neighborhood. That was so much fun. Thanks for walking me home. The male lead replied with natural gallantry. It's nothing. Sian-woo waved goodbye happily. Jin-young, you get home safe too. The male lead said coolly. Yeah. Looking at him with curiosity, she asked, Jin-young, is there something you want to say? His whole body froze as panic immediately flooded in, sweat breaking out on his face as he desperately searched for the right words. It's just that I had a really great time today. I want just the two of us to hang out like today one more time, and I hope she'll go out with me again next time. She called out, pulling him back to reality. Jin-young, the fear of rejection weighed heavily on him, forcing Jin-young to nervously scratch the back of his neck and let out a forced laugh. Ha ha. See you at school then. Ha ha. Stepping forward with a light pat, Sunwoo playfully hit him for not hearing what she wanted. Why did you take so long just to say that? You made me nervous. I'm really going now. Bye. Left alone on the quiet brick road, Jin Young stood rooted to the spot, staring at her back with an expression of miserable defeat. Bowing his head as he turned away, a deep sense of disappointment took over. He was clearly aware of the cowardly failure he had just caused. Even though I wanted to say all those things to Sian Wu, I was still afraid she would say no. The male lead's fantasy appeared again. Next time? Let me see. The possibility of seeing Sian Wu react like that terrified me too much. Today's date wasn't even my idea. Ms. Aiel was the one who set this all up herself. Maybe Sian Wu didn't even want to come. If I practiced like I did 5 years ago, I should also view Sian Wu as a rock, right? Before we get any closer, Sian Wu's voice suddenly rang out. Jin Young stood frozen on the dark street. He held his breath as her playful yet romantic request echoed through the night. Next time, let's order something other than espresso. I like drinking chocolate. Turning around completely, Jin Young was utterly mesmerized as Sian Wu stood gracefully under the soft streetlight. Sunk deep into the dark corners of his mind, Jason glared down while delivering a cold analysis. So is viewing Sian Wu as a rock really your choice? I'll respect whatever choice you make. Running away from fear is also a way to cope, just like you did 5 years ago. The male lead cut him off. Hey Jason, how do I look right now? After looking at the male lead for a while, Jason finally spoke. You had someone else ask her out for you. And from the very start of the date, you were called out for thinking about other things while she was right in front of you. Then you let her cut your meat for you. And then you didn't even dare to ask her out again because you were too scared. In the end, you chose to run away because you were afraid of getting close to Sian Wu. And now you were just about to choose to view Sian Wu as a rock. Oh, I don't mean to offend. I'm just stating objective facts. Anyway, the male lead added, that's enough. That really is the behavior of a loser. Breaking out of his train of thought, Jin Young stepped forward decisively, firmly grabbing both of Sian Wu's hands with unshakable determination as she looked at him in shock. Sian Wu looked down at him with an incredibly sincere expression. Jin Young completely cast aside his trauma, bravely promising her a better experience in the future. I'm sorry. Next time I'll show you a more interesting play. You fell asleep because it was too boring, so this is my apology. Sian Wu was silent for a moment and then said, haha, under the romantic streetlight. She continued, I was wondering when you were finally going to say that.